Have you ever been in one of those high-stakes conversations where you said all the right things, you laid out your points perfectly, but the connection just wasn't there? You walk away from a pitch, a negotiation, maybe a first date, and you feel like you just spent 20 minutes talking to a wall. It's so frustrating, right? Because you know you did the work, you knew your stuff, but something was just off. Well, today, we're not just going to look at that wall. We're going to tear it down brick by biological brick. We're going to explore this really radical idea that true influence, that deep rapport, it isn't born from the words you choose. Nope, it's forged in an unconscious biological rhythm that decides trust before your logic even gets a chance to be heard. This is the science of the rhythmic reflex.
And this, right here, this is the paradox that trips up so many smart, capable people. You prepare, you show up with the best intentions, you try to be authentic and engaging, but on a primal, biological level, your very energy, your tempo, your cadence, your internal clock, it's sending a clashing signal. Your well-intentioned effort to connect is being registered by the other person's nervous system, not as warmth, but as noise, as static, as a clash. It's this biological veto that happens completely under the surface, a silent rejection based not on what you're saying, but on the very frequency you're putting out there.
So what you're actually triggering is this hardwired ancient defense mechanism. Let's give it a name, the asynchrony alert. This is your silent opponent in every single human interaction. It's a primal threat detection system that's been baked into our DNA for thousands of years. When your rhythm, the speed of your breath, your blink rate, the pace of your speech is out of sync with the person across from you, their brain's alarm bells just start blaring. It doesn't care how great your idea is or how charming you think you are. Their biology is screaming one simple, powerful message. Warning. Something is off here. This person is different. Potential threat.
Now, this isn't just some fleeting feeling of discomfort. No, it's a full-blown systemic neural veto. The second that asynchrony alert is triggered, their amygdala, the brain's threat center, it lights up like a Christmas tree. It blasts a signal throughout their system that basically says, shut it down. And I don't mean that metaphorically. It physically closes the gates to higher-order brain functions, like creative problem-solving and open-mindedness. It literally stops the flow of bonding hormones like oxytocin, the very chemical that creates trust. You can't talk your way past this. You can't use logic to reopen those gates. The veto has been cast by a system that is way older and way more powerful than reason.
And this is the absolute key. Get this, they don't distrust your ideas. They might not even dislike you. They fundamentally distrust your rhythm. That subtle, unconscious tension in the pace of your breathing, the fast blink rate that signals anxiety, the very frequency you're vibrating at. It all just screams stranger to their nervous system. For years, we've all been taught to focus on winning the mind, on crafting the perfect argument. But the real battle, the one that determines everything, is for their nervous system. And until you win that battle, you will always be fighting an uphill fight against their biology.
So how do we stop fighting and start connecting? How do we get from this state of social friction to rhythmic mastery? Here's our roadmap. First, we'll take a deeper look at that invisible wall of silence. Then we'll decode the rhythmic discord that's creating it. After that, I'm going to introduce you to the synchronization engine. This thing is a connection accelerator. We'll get into the science of building the oxytocin bridge so you know why it works. I'll give you a live-fire sync tool you can use in your very next meeting. And finally, we'll talk about becoming sovereign of the vibe.
All right, part one, the invisible wall of silence. We're starting here because every single one of us has felt this. It's that baffling moment in a really important conversation where you can almost physically feel the energy just drain from the room. 1 minute you're connecting, the next you're just talking at them, and their eyes have gone glassy. You can feel them retreating behind this invisible barrier, and you have no clue why. This isn't just in your head, it's a real, measurable, biological thing.
Just think about it for a second. That job interview where you gave technically perfect answers, but you're just met with this polite but completely unbreakable smile. Or that sales pitch where the client nodded along to everything, but you just knew in your gut they weren't buying. That's the wall. It's the feeling of being audited, of being scanned, and ultimately of being silently rejected. It happens because your own nervous system is in this state of performance tension. You're trying so hard to impress that you're broadcasting insecurity on a frequency the other person's brain can't help but pick up on and recoil from.
And this whole process actually has a name: neural coupling. For the first 30 seconds of any interaction, the other person's brain isn't really listening to your words. It's running a much more important scan. It's a biological safety scanner, auditing your frequency, your rhythm, all your nonverbal signals, to put you into one of two primitive buckets: friend or foe, one of us or one of them. And if your overclocked, anxious, high-performance rhythm doesn't match their calmer, baseline state, you automatically get filed under foe. And bam, the wall goes up.
So if our brain is running this friend or foe scan, what causes us to fail it? Well, that brings us to part 2, decoding rhythmic discord. Now that we know the brain's running this safety check, let's look closer at the social static that causes us to fail it so often. This is that invisible force that just mutes our best intentions and undermines our best messages.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, because this completely demolishes the conventional social advice we've all been taught. We're told to find common ground, but the neurobiological truth is you have to create a common frequency first. We're told to just be authentic, but listen, if your authentic state is anxious and out of sync, it reads as inauthentic and untrustworthy to their brain. And we're told we need better small talk, when the reality is we need to send better, clearer, more synchronized biological signals before we even open our mouths.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the devastating effect of being out of sync. Just imagine listening to a singer with the most profound, beautiful, life-changing lyrics, but they're singing horribly off-key. You wouldn't be able to appreciate the message, would you? In fact, it'd be physically uncomfortable. You'd cringe. You just want the noise to stop. That is exactly what's happening when you're in a state of rhythmic discord. Your brilliant ideas, your well-crafted pitch, your genuine personality, it's all just lost in the biological noise of your out-of-sync tempo. They can't hear the music because the frequency is just plain wrong.
Okay, so we've really diagnosed the problem. It's not a personality flaw. It's a biological mismatch. So how do we fix it? Part 3, the synchronization engine. This is where we shift from theory to powerful, practical application. This is not about changing who you are. This is the trust engine for your presence. It's a learnable 3-part protocol to manually and deliberately sync your nervous system with someone else's, turning you from a source of social static into a trust accelerator.
So, the protocol is all about shifting you from performing to synchronizing. And it happens on 3 layers. First, you've got the Triad of Tempo. This is the foundation. You consciously find their breathing rhythm by watching their shoulders, and you match it. You subtly notice their blink rate and time yours to it. You gauge their tempo from their speech, and you join them there. Second, echo motion mirroring. Now, you don't copy them like a mime. That's just creepy. You echo their movements subtly like a shadow. They lean in, you lean in a few seconds later. And third, prosody matching. You listen to the music of their voice, the speed, volume, and pitch, and you start to speak in that same key, matching their vocal energy.
And when you use this 3-part system, it creates this fundamental, almost tangible shift in the dynamic. You stop talking at someone, which always feels like you're trying to push your ideas into their world. Instead, you begin vibrating with them. Your presence is no longer this proposal they have to analyze and judge and defend against. It becomes a shared reality, a resonant field that feels safe, familiar, and deeply trustworthy. You're not an outsider asking for entry anymore. You've been invited into their world because you feel like a part of it.
Okay, let's move on to part 4 and explore the hard science of why this synchronization engine is so unbelievably effective. We're going to talk about building the oxytocin bridge. This is the neurobiological payoff for all your syncing efforts. See, synchronization isn't just a nice feeling. It's the direct, mechanical trigger for the brain's chemistry of connection. This is how we consciously bypass that fear-driven veto and get the brain's trust circuits working for us, not against us.
Now, what's really fascinating here is this idea of processing friction. The human brain is, at its core, lazy. Its primary job is to conserve energy. When you're out of sync, asynchronous, their brain has to burn more glucose, more actual energy, just to process who you are and what you're saying. It's metabolically expensive. But when you sync your rhythm to theirs, you dramatically lower that energy cost. You make it easy for them to listen, to understand, and yeah, ultimately, to agree with you. You're literally making yourself easy to trust by making yourself easy to process.
And achieving this low-energy, low-friction state is what we call neural harmony. This is the strategic goal of the whole process. In this state, your influence is no longer being watered down by the static of your biological differences. All of your energy, and more importantly, all of their precious mental resources, can be concentrated on your actual message. You stop wasting power just convincing their primal brain that you're safe, and you start investing that power in leading the conversation where you want it to go.
And the impact of achieving this state is not subtle at all. Studies in interpersonal neurobiology suggest that when you achieve neural harmony, agreement becomes up to 100 times more natural.
Now, this doesn't mean you'll close 100 times more deals overnight. What it means is the friction to get to yes is reduced by that much. Agreement stops feeling like a negotiation or a battle. It feels like a foregone conclusion, just the natural result of a shared perspective that you consciously built from the very first synchronized breath.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually start doing it without feeling awkward or getting called out? Let's get tactical. Part 5, the live fire sync drill. This is your simple, actionable playbook for the first 2 minutes of your very next important interaction. Forget everything else you've learned about icebreakers or opening lines. For the first 120 seconds, just focus on this. Here's the entire drill, step by step. For the first 60 seconds, your only job is the exhale anchor. Don't worry about what you're going to say, just watch the rise and fall of their shoulders. When they exhale, you exhale. Make it your silent mantra, match the exhale. From 60 to 90 seconds, you add the 5-second echo. When they use a hand gesture or shift their posture, you mentally count to 5, and then you subtly adopt a similar position. That delay is crucial. It makes it feel natural, not like you're mimicking them. Finally, from 90 seconds to 2 minutes, listen for the keyword mirror. Find one slightly unique or specific word they use, and find a natural way to use that same word in your next sentence. That's it. That 2-minute protocol is enough to bypass the asynchrony alert and start building that oxytocin bridge.
Finally, let's bring this all home. Part 6, becoming sovereign of the vibe. We've gone through the problem, the solution, the science, and a practical drill. Now, let's just distill this entire system down to its most powerful core principle. This isn't just a technique, it's a fundamental shift in how you see human connection. It's the mindset you need to really master the art of the rhythm.
So, the most important point is this. Rapport is a frequency, not some skill you learn from a book. You can have all the charisma and the best lines in the world, but you absolutely cannot outperform a clashing rhythm. Biology will always win. Your greatness in any interaction isn't defined by the words you choose, but by the frequency you emit. The very vibration of your regulated, synchronized presence in the room. You can't fake this. You have to embody it.
And that leads us to your final challenge. It's a simple one, but it's a profound one. In your very next conversation today, with a colleague, a client, the person making your coffee, I don't care. I challenge you to try this. For just 30 seconds, stop trying to talk. Stop thinking about what clever thing to say next. Consciously eliminate the noise of your own internal tempo, your own agenda, and just focus on one thing, matching their breath. Don't say anything, just feel the shift in your own body and notice the change in theirs when you sync up. That feeling? That's the beginning of mastery.
Because at the end of the day, that's the secret. It's the key that unlocks a level of connection, trust, and influence you may have never thought was possible. You don't need better words. You need a better signal. You don't need to try harder to be liked. You need to sink deeper into the shared human experience. Forget persuasion. Master resonance. Sync the rhythm, and you win the soul.